I'm Norman MacDonald and I'm going to take Cafe 1 to your home. We're going to do a dinner party dish. We're going to do a dish that's been on the cafe menu for 3 years. It's a rump of Highland lamb. It's going to be served with scurly sauteed potatoes, organic curly kale, some grants of Speyside black pudding, a Cubocan jus, and that's about that. So the rump of lamb, most importantly, comes from the top of the leg, and this is we're probably working with a lamb today that's just still lamb and not quite hoggy as yet. It's come from Torgorm, which is a farm just in Rossshire there, or they classify it as the Black Isle, just above Conan Bridge, and we're very proud of our local produce. So day one, this is the day ahead. When we have dinner parties, a lot of us create a lot of work for ourselves, and that's great and great results, but it can create a lot of pressure as well. So we're going to reduce that pressure by doing this over 2 days. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to make the marinade for the lamb, and we're going to marinate the lamb. So here we've got our 2 rumps of Highland lamb. You see a nice coating of fat on the outside and a little bit of marbling of fat through it. This is how you're wanting it to be. So for the marinade, we've got some garlic, and of course we're using Scottish garlic from the Really Garlicky company, just in the Bay of Codder there. Just give that a wee press, just makes life a bit easier for peeling, and just give it a wee peel there like that. So we're just using the 2 cloves. There we go. Okay, and now we've got some fresh rosemary. We don't need to do much for that. Just try and make sure you're picking rosemary that's not too woody. Okay, to that we're going to add, the oil we're going to use for this is rapeseed oil. The rapeseed oil is from the Mackenzie's farm at Fern in Easter Ross, and it works really well for cooking and for marinating. Just that like that, and then we're going to give that a blitz. So just a rough blitz, you see that? Okay, and then we're going to just place our rumps in there like so. So that's it there in the marinade. Now this process, if it's 24 hours or 48, it makes no difference. So if you want to do it the day before or 2 days before, you've got it prepped and ready. And all we're going to do with that is pop it in the fridge. Now we're going to make the scurly. Now scurly is probably a very old-fashioned ingredient, and we're not going to use it in the traditional sense. Traditional scurly was made as an accompaniment, as a stuffing, to stretch out the more expensive cuts. So some good Scotch butter, which is salted with Isle of Skye salt from Dunvegan. Okay, and all we're going to do with that is a lot of butter, but it's a lot of taste. Into the pan there, and we're going to take half an onion, and we're going to be a little bit chefy, and we're going to chop the onion finely. That's finely chopped. We're not wasting any of that because that's going to give a nice little bit of sweetness from the onion as well. Okay, now we're not going to fry this, we're just going to soften this in a pan. It's very, very key that the onion doesn't brown at all. So scurly is very easy to make, is versatile, and will keep 5 to 6 days in the fridge once it's made. So we can see now the onion's completely softened and given its flavour and mixed in with the butter. Now the butter, sorry, I'll get a row for everyone for that. We've got pin-edged Scottish oatmeal, and we're just going to add that too. And this is very much visually done. Okay, and we're just going to add that there, and as you can see, just enough to cover the onions there. That's what we're looking for. That's the quantity we're working for. Now, before we return this to the heat, this is the time to season it. Again, Scottish sea salt from Isle of Skye, just from the Bay of Dunvegan. We're going to add a small amount of thyme. Again, like the rosemary, soft, not woody thyme at all. Add that there. There we go. As you see, we're just going to return that to the heat just for a couple of minutes, just to let the oatmeal soften and cook. That's our scurly done. Ready, we'll let that cool down, come to an ambient temperature, and then off to the fridge it goes. Now we're ready to get on with the carrots and the potatoes. Cooking well is shopping well. Okay, so we've got organic carrots from Maggie at the Natural Vegetable Company, and we've also got Maggie's new potatoes as well. And all we're going to do with this, very, very simply, is we're just going to boil them for 18 minutes, let them cool, keep them in the fridge with the carrots. We're just going to boil the carrots till they're soft. Again, add a little bit more of the coulis rapeseed oil, some salt, some pepper, and give it a blitz. Slange. That's my guests arrived. They've got a glass of wine. They're having a good conversation and getting a chat. So I'm nipping through, and this is me all organised for cooking the lamb. Minimum time with the food, maximum time with your guests. So we've got our lamb, which has been marinated, as you saw, with garlic and rosemary, coolest oil. Our potatoes are cooked and chopped. Our skirley's ready. We've got our onion ready for our jus. We've got our jus, and we've got our Grant Speyside black pudding, along with our carrot puree, all ready to go. So the next step, to sear and cook our Highland lamb. We've got a dry pan, nice and hot, very, very hot. We don't need any oil because we've got the fat of the lamb, which we're going to render, and we've also got the residue of the marinade. So that's the lamb down, skin side down, to let the fat start to render. So you can see the lamb's been sealed, fat's rendered nicely there, and we're just going to take that, and we're going to pop it in a dish, and that's going to go in the oven for 15 minutes. So we're now going to start preparing our jus. Okay, nothing gets wasted, so we've got all that caramelised nutty bits of the lamb, so they're left over, along with a little bit of residue of the jus. So we're going to, wee bit chefy, we're going to deglaze that. Okay, so finely chopped onions, a splash of the coolest rapeseed oil, back to the heat to soften. So for the jus, I'm using Cuboccan Highland whiskey with just a nice peaty smoky edge, and that's really going to help our lamb. All we're going to do now is add our jus. For us to make this jus is a 2-day process. We get the marrow bones in, we roast them in the oven for 6 hours, then we boil them along with bay leaves, with onions, with carrots, with herbs, and with star anise. Once this is boiled for 6 to 8 hours, we then reduce down and add some more whiskey to give us flavour. But that's now set aside and it's ready. We're now going to saute our potatoes with our skirley. And here we're seasoning again with Isle of Skye sea salt. Well, now we're going to add our skirley, just about half. So that's our skirley potatoes ready. What we're going to do with that, not waste any of those nutty bits. Okay, and we're going to place them in the bottom shelf of the oven, just for 5 minutes. Lamb's out of the oven, okay, and now that's going to rest, okay. We're just going to let that rest. Big part with using the rump is that you have to cook it in such a way that the muscles can all relax so you don't have a tough beast. So the potatoes are in the oven, the carrot puree is ready, the jus is ready. Now it's just a case of letting the lamb rest for another 10 minutes and popping the black pudding in the oven. So we're quite famous for our black pudding in Scotland, and sadly most people as a breakfast dish. And it really is a delicacy, and people that talk about delicacies and acquired taste and delicacies are two completely different things. Black pudding is not an acquired taste. It's beautiful, it's nutritious, and it is a superfood, so it's very, very good for you. My parents are Hebridean, from Harris and from Lewis, and obviously we've got Charlie Barty's very, very famous, fantastic, award-winning black pudding. But I'm sticking a wee bit closer to home today, and I'm going to use Grant's Speyside black pudding. Just a little bit different, not better, different. That's our black pudding ready to go in the oven for 8 minutes. Okay, here we have the kale. This is very, very complicated. We're going to cook the kale in boiling water for 5 seconds. The water is salted. First move is carrot puree, which is at an ambient temperature. We're using the heat of the plate to cook the carrots. Curly kale, high in iron, very good for us. Grant's black pudding. And now for the Highland lamb. We're carving through this, and really you could almost use a spoon. There's very, very little resistance to that at all. Look at that, nice and pink. All the juices have been relaxed and given up. Cubokin jus. Voila! Enjoy Café 1 at home.